done in a very good way, it's not a very good ending.
Well, and at the same time, that's what kind of happened last night too. But I thought that what would have been the finish was actually going to be pretty awesome, because I remember like Rusev was going for like another kick or something like that, and Dolph Ziggler hits like you talk about a finisher out of nowhere. He just hits a zigzag out of nowhere, like an RKO out of nowhere.
Yes.
And and then Summer Rae got involved, and then the whole deal with Lana and Ray, and I don't know but for some reason I thought I saw like a little bit of red in Summer Rae's mouth. I don't know if she got busted open in the mouth, or if some of her lipstick got on her teeth or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not quite entirely sure. I know I did see that too last night, but honestly, I did see the disqualification coming last night when Summer Rae jumped up on the rope or on the apron the first time. I'm like, oh, this is any disqualification. It's one of those things where you know it's going to happen, but I mean, during like Raw and SmackDown, yeah, I understand if a match ends in disqualification. But I don't know. In pay-per-views, it's a little different because people are paying money. I mean, I know I have the network for $9.99, but
best chat in the world.
Yes, but that's my thought.
And then it kind of escalated when we saw how Summer Rae snuck into the locker room of Dolph Ziggler and then ran out, and Ziggler almost had a quote-unquote wardrobe malfunction where his towel almost came off.
He almost pulled a Miley Cyrus last night.
And then, of course, and then they just spent like maybe 5 extra minutes where Dolph Ziggler's talking to Lana, and then Lana talks to Renee Young, and Lana hasn't really said anything about it. So the question is, what is going to happen? I mean, is this going to come to a head at maybe Night of Champions, or is this just going to continue on till...
Well, yeah, I think this will be a Night of Champions rematch between Rusev and Dolph. The question is, and you and I were talking about this before the show, is who's going to be with who? You had said that maybe they could pull off a double turn with Lana and Summer Rae. It's a very hard thing to convince them. It's a good point. I think that teams will remain the same. I think Summer will be with Rusev, and Lana will stay with Ziggler. It may come to a point where Lana leaves for a week or two before Night of Champions, and then the Raw before, or even the night of Champions, Lana appears with Ziggler. But I think that the whole Lana Ziggler storyline and Rusev and Summer Rae, I don't think it's over yet.
Now we also... Well, we talk about, divas for show, because obviously, managers, they're eye candy, everything like that. But we also talk about, 3 beat the clock challenges, 3 matches on there. And I thought it was a great concept. I thought they were building up pretty well. But I remember mentioning to you this before the show that it seemed like all those matches only ended like... all combined, it was almost like a 6-minute deal. It's like that's a scene of promo.
Yeah, you and I did the math. You had Becky Lynch win in about 3 minutes and 21 seconds, and you had Charlotte under about 1:30 even. So right there, that's 5 minutes, and Paige lost in about 1:40 because she didn't beat the clock. So all in all, 6.5 minutes for 3 Divas match when you're in the middle of a Divas Revolution. I don't think that's very good planning on the creative team of WWE's part. I think that, not just because they're divas, I think that these, not just Team PCB, you've got Team Bad, even Team Bella, the whole Divas Revolution, the whole Divas division deserves a lot more time. And I've spoken out about this really since day one, that the Divas Revolution, yes, some people don't enjoy those storylines as much, but the people that do enjoy it a lot. So I think the fact that you had 3 beat the clock challenges with the members of Team PCB last night in under 6.5 minutes, I think that it's a very big mistake on the part of, but probably a storyline brewing with Charlotte. I think Charlotte will win the Divas Championship. Yes, Nikki Bella will beat the record of AJ Lee. That, at this point, is certain. Because you're 3 weeks away from Night of Champions. You've got 14 days, according to Bellatron last night, 14 days until she takes the record. She will beat the record, but she'll lose at Night of Champions.
And actually, that was crazy because yesterday I was mentioning how I watch this clip from Talk is Jericho, and he was mentioning how Divas Revolution kind of seems like it's falling, and it's not really because of the team, the way it's getting set up. It's more because of the fact that they're not really focused on them as individuals. I mean, you're trying to push 9 people all at the same time, and that's obviously not working. It's understandable. I mean, if they're doing like maybe 3 separate agendas or something like that, but if you have all 3 of them doing like the same cause, doing something like that, it's really hard to do that. But I thought last night, they were starting to really try to, get everybody as individuals. And, you see Becky Lynch, you see Charlotte doing her deal. I mean, that was the first time I saw the, the bow to the queen or the natural selection, whatever her finisher is, last night. And I thought it was really cool to see that. And as fast as, she did, I think, Charlotte is a gifted athlete. I think that, she does deserve to be Divas champion. But I honestly thought that, well, here's an idea I want to run by you, and let me know what you think. So you know how they have that timer that she did, just brought that in, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what, that's really cool that they're bringing that, but what if they did something to where they still have the timer going, but she's also defending the title when the timer's going down, like having the night before Night of Champions, have her defend the title maybe against Becky Lynch or against Paige. I think Becky Lynch would probably be the better, because then you would know that, okay, maybe she may get the title before Charlotte does, or maybe somebody else, because I think if Paige were to do it, they're just going to think, oh, she's obviously going to lose.
Right.
But you have, against Becky Lynch, there's that unpredictability factor, and, just have that clock and that timer keep going and going to where, Nikki's all concerned. It's just like, okay, I don't want to lose a title, I want to beat this record. And, there's that risk factor of, having, and maybe that could be a main event deal to where, you have that timer, and, they're trying to prevent Nikki from getting that, goal of being the longest reigning champion.
Yeah, I'll admit, when I saw the Bellatron last night and the timer ticking down, I had that small feeling of maybe a quick storyline of Nikki defending her title right when that timer is about to expire. And I thought that would make a pretty interesting storyline because you know how obsessive Nikki is about her title. And going back on your point about shoving 9 different divas into the frame at one time. The Divas Championship hasn't been defended in 2 pay-per-views? That's almost 3 months right there. And I think that's why the whole Divas division and the Revolution is kind of stalling, is because they're trying to force feed this storyline of Nikki beating AJ Lee's record by holding the title for that, for longer or so. But I think that would be interesting, and I certainly would enjoy seeing that the whole championship match with Nikki, and I would say Becky Lynch would be a better choice than Paige. I would love seeing that, and just her constantly looking up at the clock and trying to hold on to her title. But it'll be interesting to see over the next couple weeks what happens before Night of Champions with that title.
Actually, we were talking a little bit before the show about, from one Divas division to another. We were talking about that high-profile, we consider it to be the main event of NXT Brooklyn, the Bayley versus Sasha Banks, and how
one of the best Divas matches I've ever seen.
It can almost be compared to when Lita and Trish main evented. I think it was Charlotte, North Carolina, in Lita's hometown. Just the energy behind it was really just amazing. And I even admitted this, that when Bayley won the title, I almost broke out crying because it's one of those real wrestling moments where you could just feel the emotion even through the screen, and she was definitely well deserving of it. She's been fighting for it for so long. You see her just to that point where it's just like, just came this close, just came this close, just came this close, and it just kept getting smaller and smaller every time until finally she finally accomplished it.
Yeah, it ranks right up there. I would say it's a very close second to when Daniel Bryan won the titles at WrestleMania 30. It was one of those real, emotional moments of, I finally did it. And you know this. I'm a huge Bailey supporter, and
he's actually wearing a Bailey T-shirt right now.
yes,
so.
I am. Yes. I was debating which one of my shirts to wear today, and I picked the Bailey shirt. But I was watching NXT TakeOver on the network, just live, and I was just so focused on that match because literally, I've seen a lot of Divas matches, and Bayley versus Sasha Banks was one of the best I've ever seen. And I follow a few people on Twitter, big wrestling people on Twitter, and they were just shocked at how well that match went. Yes, albeit Sasha Banks did land on her head at the end of the match, and I hope to God she's okay. But in comparison to the Finn Balor Kevin Owens ladder match for the title, I think that the Bayley and Sasha Banks match was so much better. Props to Balor and Owen for a hard fought battle, and that it was the co-main event. But I think if you look back at NXT TakeOver and you look at which match was the best, Bayley and Sasha Banks was probably the best match I've seen in NXT in a long time.
I agree 100%. It just goes to show that when you don't focus so much on the paparazzi and all the fame and all the good looks and everything like that, these females can be really, really good in the ring. I mean, so many great examples of like Molly Holly, Gail Kim, who I still think is the greatest women's athlete, in history, whether it be in sports entertainment or whether it be in pro wrestling. Gail Kim is definitely on the top of that list, and I think that she would definitely be a great person to put into the WWE Hall of Fame. We'll see if that happens, but it's going to be one of those things that would be interesting. But going from that into the Intercontinental Championship match they had between Ryback and the Big Show, of course, it kind of ended with a bit of interference from everybody's favorite loudmouth. I actually tweeted this. I said, I know that they're doing like the whole please retire chants for Big Show, but I actually said this on Twitter. I said hey Miz, here's a new chant for you. # please shut up.
Yeah. I'll admit, the whole Intercontinental Championship storyline with me, yes, I enjoy Ryback 150% as champion. He's been hard fought for a championship for a long time. And back to his days when I think he was in the Nexus, wasn't he? Not as Ryback, but as
Skip Sheffield.
Thank you.
Yep. What'd it do?
Yes. Since day one, I've liked him, and the fact that he's now Intercontinental champion, it's great. Now the whole storyline with Big Show and the Miz, I still have my doubts. The whole triple threat match with Big Show and the Miz at SummerSlam. Yeah, it was a pretty good match. It ended exactly how I thought it was going to end. Big Show, knocking somebody out and the other guy pinning him, and that person just happened to be the champion. But I think that, over the next few months, that they need to incorporate another storyline with the Intercontinental Championship. All that being said, I enjoyed the match last night. It was a pretty hard-fought match. Seeing Big Show fly off the top rope, Ryback just toss him like a rag doll. That was pretty fun. I thought that the ring was going to collapse for just a second.
I just remember I watched it with my dad, and he even thought like, oh, and I remember saying that it's crazy because you look at it and you think to yourself, a regular guy just getting thrown off the top rope, that's one thing. I mean, Ric Flair gets thrown off the top rope almost like all the time, and it hurts. But I mean, a guy of Big Show's size, Big Show's, I don't want to say weight because that would seem like he's fat. You're not fat, Big Show. Even though one of your USA Network commercials were making it seem like Actually, I don't know if we wanted to get into this. Do you remember seeing that when they were going into the whole 3-hour deal and they were just. And Vince talked to Cena, and he says Raw starts at 8. Everybody's just saying like all this random stuff, like everybody needs to bring a date. We're supposed to hydrate.
Yeah.
Like, who you calling a cheapskate?
Yeah.
And Big Show's classic lines were, "Who says I need to lose weight?" and then like a couple seconds later, Kane just says, "I have to bake a cake," and here's Big Show like, "Ooh." Cake.
Cake. I remember that.
But yeah, it's just one of those things where if you see how big a guy is and he's getting thrown to the top, it probably hurts that much more.
Yeah.
And for anybody to even lift Big Show above his head, you think